In the news tonight, more medical teams deployed to Kandavu. Fijians in New Zealand safe. And Ministry expedites investment applications.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Naka.
Ulubinaka, Fiji. The Ministry of Health is working on sending another boatload of medical personnel to Kandavu to provide public health and clinical response and work on problems being faced on the island. Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong says they're expecting more cases of COVID-19 in Kandavu and their teams will be working on mitigating this. Lena Rees reports.
With a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases in Kandavu, the Ministry of Health confirms that together with their containment efforts, there will also be a strong mitigation component within their work plan.
Our problem in Kandavu is that the first time we knew of a case in Kandavu when somebody has passed away, that person would have had the disease for at least 2 weeks. It also means we expect that the positivity rate in Kandavu will be very, very high.
The Health Ministry continues to work with authorities regarding travel without proper authorization that led to cases in Kandavu and more recently 2 new COVID-19 cases in Malolo Island.
I have told everybody that we cannot rest or be complacent, neither should we ever boast that we have gotten over the bad fate.
So it's important for us to be able to provide that secure and stable environment so that Ministry of Health can function well.
The Health Ministry is repeating its call to all village leaders and elders to support current efforts to protect maritime islands and to immediately report any suspicious movements into their communities. Lena Rees, FBC News.
Former Ministry of Health surgeon Dr. Chone Hawea, who is alleged to have shared misinformation on the COVID-19 situation, is still in police custody. Dr. Hawea is being questioned in Suva by the Criminal Investigations Department after being taken from his home in Lautoka last night. He's recently made numerous claims in relation to COVID-19, the vaccine, and also about other issues pertaining to the pandemic. And Felipe Naikaso has been following developments and joins us live now. Felipe, what do we know about Dr. Hawea's detainment as of this evening?
Edwin, I managed to speak with Dr. Hawea's lawyer, Aman Ravindra Singh, and he confirms that his client was indeed in police custody early this afternoon, and that was around 2:30 p.m. Singh also says he can't be with Dr. Hawea to provide legal representation because of the border closures. The former Minister of Health surgeon made claims on social media regarding the COVID-19 situation, which lacked scientific backing and were based on conspiracy theories. The Minister for Health himself, Dr. Ifremi Wanganambete, also confirmed that Dr. Hawea was not registered and has no authority to be holding out to be a medical practitioner. Also, as of tonight, no charges have been laid, but under the law, police can hold Dr. Hawea for 48 hours until they have to release him or they have to present him in court.
Naka Felipe. Fijians in New Zealand are safe from the outbreak of the Delta variant. However, the situation is grim as more cases of coronavirus are detected. Fiji's honorary consul in Auckland, Harish Lodhia, says New Zealand immigration is not enforcing any laws or penalizing overstayers because of border closures. Lodhia adds when borders do open, flights will be arranged to safely send Fijians back home. Kritika Kumar reports.
Harish Lodhia says they haven't received any call for help from the Fijian families living in New Zealand.
At the moment, because the borders are closed, so the immigration is not enforcing any kind of laws or penalties on anybody who are overstayers here. In good time, when the borders open, and if they need to go back, then flights will be arranged for them to go back.
Lodhia confirms they are trying to help the family of late Akhilesh Chetty, who passed away during the lockdown, but not from COVID-19.
One of our Fijian brothers who was on a work permit as a prison officer in Auckland at the age of 36 passed away.
Mohammed Asif, who lives in Auckland, says the virus is the problem and not the people, and they all need to play their part and follow protocols.
And the unity amongst the Fijian community in New Zealand or wherever they are based in, it's always a talking point. And once again, I'm pretty sure the community, not just Fijian community, but the whole of New Zealand will come out pretty strong after this.
New Zealand will remain at alert level 4 lockdown until next week. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Global solidarity is needed to get the current pandemic under control. The World Health Organization is calling for all humankind to play their part. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Some people are acting like this pandemic is over, and I'm afraid it's far from over. It's not.
WHO is pleading with people everywhere to follow all COVID-safe protocols in order to control a pandemic that is threatening humanity.
Please, we need everybody's help. We need everyone to play their part in this pandemic. We need to have that solidarity against this virus.
Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong is also sounding the alarm as Fiji is not out of the woods yet.
At the moment, we know that it seems as if the caseload is getting less, but I have told everybody that we cannot rest or be complacent. Neither should we ever boast that we have gotten over the bad phase.
It's not the time to give up anywhere on any reaches of the planet.
Since the outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern by WHO on January 30th, 2020, SARS-CoV has mutated into 4 different variants of concern, 4 variants of interest, with 11 lineages currently being monitored around the world. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Now to our COVID-19 update. Fiji recorded 302 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 148 cases are from the Western Division and 154 are from the Central Division. The Health Ministry also recorded 9 new COVID-19 deaths between August 18th and 23rd. 4 were from the Central Division and 5 from the Western Division. Fiji has had 44,420 cases since April this year. There are now 18,916 active cases with 24,855 recoveries. The COVID-19 death toll stands at 453. The vaccination campaign also continues. Latest is that 547,252 people, or 93.3% of the population, have received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 245,749, or 41.9%, have received the second dose. The 5 most vaccinated areas include Mba, Rewa, Nanonga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jab administered. Next is Nandi. And Wame Kasamburu is among those who have gotten the jab. Let's do our part for Fiji. Up ahead, farmers struggle with borders and uncontrolled fires are concerned. Welcome back. The Ministry of Commerce and Trade is processing $1.8 billion worth of investments covering various sectors. Minister Fayaz Koya says the investment climate is slowly picking up as our COVID-19 vaccination rate increases. Kelly Vadala reports the ministry is working with relevant agencies to identify projects which are ready to start.
There have been some positive signs of investment in recent months, giving us hope for some growth in the economy.
There's approximately $1.8 billion worth of investments that are stuck in the system. And it's important to note that amongst these, the domestic investors are continuing to reinvest in Fiji. Whilst from January to July 2021, Investment Fiji also registered foreign direct investment value of about $516 million.
Minister Fayaz Koya says there has been some ongoing work in the construction sector, but due to COVID-19, supply chains have been affected.
There could be various reasons for these investments not being realized at the moment, as we all know. And we're working with all the agencies to identify the projects that are ready to start and to assist in their approvals and processes.
Overall, 2 businesses. So we can see we are achieving our vaccination targets, and therefore we will be returning. Life will come back to normal.
The Investment Facilitation Committee, chaired by the MCTTT, is processing investment which needs to be expedited. Kelly Vathala, FBC News.
Farmers and businesses operating at the Sawani containment border in Naitasiri are eager to see borders reopening in Viti Levu. FBC News visited the area this morning and saw the plight of farmers from Naitasiri who've been making losses in recent months while doing business at the border. Josiah Nanunga reports the future of many of these farmers depends on Fiji achieving vaccination targets.
18.9% of Fijians to be fully vaccinated is all that is needed now. Then the government will consider reopening the containment area borders across Viti Levu.
Border closure in Sawani has affected our earnings. However, following safety protocols is paramount if we want borders opening up soon.
The business has been unsatisfactory for most of its commercial farmers and business operators since May.
To the borders to be opened because my shop is up there, Skyline Supermarket. So it's really very down, my business up there. It's really affecting us because the border is closed here. Most of our customers were from Naitasiri.
Profits and fluctuate. At times I reach my target, but business is quiet during the week. Hopefully the Sawani border is lifted soon so that customers from Naitasiri can freely travel to our booths in Nausori.
A good number of Fijians turned up at the Sawani containment border for early morning exchanges or trading with strict adherence to physical distancing requirements. Meanwhile, the Fiji Police Force continued to reiterate that blatant breaches of COVID-19 protocols will not be tolerated, despite the need for people to make a living during these times of uncertainty. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
Vulnerable communities will now be able to access affordable climate and disaster risk insurance following the launch of Fiji's first ever parametric micro-insurance product. For $2 a week, low-income Fijians will be able to access up to $1,000 after a flood or cyclone. No VAT will be charged on this micro-insurance product. Minister for Economy Aya Syed Kayum says climate emergency is here and the government saw climate and disaster risk insurance as one of the most sustainable shields of protection that can be offered to vulnerable communities. He adds the product needs to be affordable, fit for purpose and attractive to insurance agencies.
This parametric product offers 2 covers to help affected households respond to cyclone and flood risks, as highlighted earlier on. Both carry a maximum coverage of 1,000 Fijian dollars with annual premiums of 100 Fijian dollars. That means for less than $2 a week, a Fijian household that is vulnerable to the devastation of future storms can forge themselves a shield financial security. They will not wait for the government to pay them after a storm strikes. Assistance will be available to them very quickly.
The Northern Division has recorded an increase in uncontrolled fires over the last few weeks. Divisional Commissioner Northern Uraya Rainima says current dry and windy conditions can make unnecessary burning a hazard if not monitored. It can threaten plantations, power lines and communities. So far this month, the National Fire Authority has received 43 calls relating to grass fires, bush fires, burning of sugarcane fields and sawdust fires. The Senganga Fire Station has had to respond to calls as far as Ndreketi and Nasarawanga in Bua. The National Fire Authority has commenced community awareness on the need to monitor fires to prevent uncontrolled burning.
Another shipment of 55,000 tons of pine chips is currently loading at the Wariki chip mill in Bua, bound for China. Fiji Pine Limited Chief Executive Officer Vimlesh Kumar says this shipment is valued at $7 million. The largest wood-shipped vessel from China, MV Meta, arrived on Saturday and started loading pine chips this week. Kumar says after this shipment, Fiji Pine has secured 5 more shipments for this year. Fiji Pine has already made 7 shipments to China, both from the Wariki and Lautoka chip mills. Fiji and 4 neighboring countries are part of a tourism diversification strategy to set up geoparks in existing ecotourism sites. Under the Pacific Ecotourism Recovery Initiative, assessments on potential geoparks will be undertaken in Fiji, Tuvalu, Samoa and Vanuatu. The preliminary feasibility study will include geological focal points, industry partners and local communities. The long-term goal is to establish geoparks under the global UNESCO Geoparks framework. The strategy is being coordinated between the Pacific Tourism Organization, Pacific Community, and United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. Here, the local exchange rates are set early this morning. Another day as it continues to slip against our 2 major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, while the Sangomoli rose against the other international currencies we cover. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Crude oil rose to over $67 a barrel. Gold dropped a few dollars to $1,803 per ounce, and silver was up at $23.85 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. The US dollar eased further as risk-related currencies benefited from rising commodity prices. The Australian dollar, which is seen as a liquid proxy for risk appetite, rose 0.6%, while the New Zealand dollar gained 0.8% against the greenback. Meanwhile, data released today from New Zealand showed the monthly trade balance for July 2021 was a deficit of $402 million. The annual trade balance noted a deficit of $1.1 billion. New Zealand's imports noted a strong 35% rise to reach $6.2 billion. The exports, on the other hand, eased from $5.96 billion in June to $5.75 last month. Market has set aside concerns about the spread of the Delta variant of coronavirus to gauge data that showed US economy in strong recovery mode. Focus is also on the US Federal Reserve's Jackson Hole conference on Friday. Some investors expect the Fed Chair Jerome Powell to hint at a possible timeline for tapering the US Central Bank's bond-buying monetary stimulus. And we'll hear more on that till Friday, but for now that's all from your HFC Bank. Thank you.
40 villages in Viti level will receive compost fertilizer from the Ministry of Agriculture. Permanent Secretary Ritesh Das says the organic initiative will reduce the use of chemical fertilizers, improve soil health and soil biodiversity, and sustain agricultural land for long-term food security. The compost fertilizer will sustain the soil and reduce pollution in rivers, streams and coastal areas. It will also sustain agricultural land for long-term food security. Farmers are urged to practice sustainable agriculture and not to abusively apply chemical fertilizers. This project has a funding of $190,000. And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, local artisan weaves her way to success. Stay with us.
Welcome back. More than 300 villages will benefit from the nature-based seawall to be built in Namatakula, Singatoka. A memorandum of understanding has been signed between the Ministry of Waterways and the British High Commission to enhance climate resilience of Fiji's coastal and riverbank communities. Minister Dr. Mahinda Reddy says the MOU will support efforts in achieving the National Adaptation Plan and National Development Plan. Dr. Reddy says immediate action is needed to reduce the impact of coastal inundation that damages infrastructure and causes threats to villages. The grant of $38,139 will be used to build the 450-meter hybrid seawall.
We plan to undertake the establishment of a nature-based wall, which comprises of the first line of defense being mangrove, the second line of defense being boulders, the third line of defense being a wall built out of clay soil, and the fourth line of defense would be vetiver grass planted on the wall.
Namatakula, like other coastal settlements, faces increasing challenges from coastal erosion, from sea level rise, and so on. And those are things that have an impact on the village.
Climate change activists climbed outside of the headquarters of the City of London's government as they began 2 weeks of protests focused on the capital's financial district. The group wants an emergency response from governments and a mass move away from polluting industries to avert the worst scenarios of devastation outlined by scientists. Staying home during the pandemic has been an opportunity for mother and artisan Sarah Vakarau Kolinisau. Known for her talents, Kolinisau says she's been able to make good use of her time and talent to deliver on orders and provide for her family. Sanya Nimboila reports.
The Faith Wave, despite the challenges of COVID-19, is still up and running.
I am part of a Kevi Semani group, and that is where I get my orders from. My business continued despite the pandemic.
The mother of 4 who stays at her home in Cunningham, Suva, with her grandchildren says her talent for weaving has been a lifesaver in the midst of the pandemic.
The COVID-19 lockdown was a good time for me. I stayed home most of the times and continued with my weaving, and I help pay the bills with the money I get from my mats. It has really helped my family.
The Lao native says there is no reason any Fijian should be living in poverty, as we all have talents to make use of.
I urge mothers to make good use of your talents, from weaving to sewing to baking. This will generate income for you and help your families during these trying times.
Kolinisau runs her Faith Wave home-based business in Suva, but has clients from around the country. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
A refurbished diabetic hub will soon open in Lautoka to cater for patients in the Western Division. The project was headed by the Tanoa Hotel Group and took 6 months to complete due to the pandemic. Felipe Naikaso has more.
With a diabetic hub at the Lautoka Hospital used for COVID response, this newly renovated facility is timely for patients.
So for us to have this place given to us today is a blessing for us, because at least here we can attend to the diabetic cases, and we know that with COVID most of the vulnerable population and all are those with comorbidities, NCDs and diabetes.
A request was sent in last year seeking assistance in renovating the building, and the Tanoa Hotel Group answered, saying it's part of their corporate social responsibility.
The funds was provided by Reddy Foundation. However, I'm very pleased to say that the Tanoa Hotel Group staffs volunteered their time during this crisis to come and assist and do all these renovations by themselves.
As of now, no time frame has been set on when the diabetic hub will open.
Our patients would be looking forward to come to a clinic that they would be comfortable in, and they've built some ramps. At least it'd be safe for our patients who would need wheelchair.
The cost of the refurbishment was $10,000. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
And now for all the latest in sports with Jamie.
Unaka, and good evening in sports tonight. Home at last for Fijiana players. Fijiana Sevens captain Rusila Nangasau believes that she has a duty to guide the younger players in the squad as they prepare for more opportunities in the future. Nangasau and a few Fijiana members arrived into the capital city this morning after their 14-day mandatory quarantine in Nandi. As Venina Rakautonga reports, the players have been given time to spend with their families before continuing with national duties.
The skipper wants to continue donning the white jersey as she helps guide the younger Fijiana players.
For me right now, just to get them right on board right now, we have opened the door for them. Big opportunities in front of us for them to route. Now we want to go back and help out the grass group here in Fiji.
Fijiana manager Vela Naudukindi says the girls have been reminded to keep fit as they spend time with their family.
Be returning back to camp soon,
That in preparation for the upcoming HSBC series, if that's go ahead, and next year the Commonwealth Game and the World Cup.
The Fijiana Sevens team now has the Commonwealth Games and the HSBC 7 series next on the list. Venina Rakautonga, FBC Sports.
It was an emotional moment for Fijiana Sevens rep Vasiti Solikoviti being reunited with her family after 6 months. Although she has spent time away before, this occasion was different for the Asawa native as she came home with an Olympic bronze medal. As Caroline Itabi reports, close friends and family hosted a small celebration to welcome home the Olympic hero in Saru Lautoka today.
Vasiti Solikoviti was in tears today as she remembered her late grandmother during the welcoming ceremony.
Representing Fiji in Sevens rugby was not part of the plan, but I would like to thank everyone who stood by me and supported me along the way. Though my namesake, who had always encouraged me to chase my dreams, is not here today, I know she'll be proud.
Her father, Paula Solikoviti, says it was a proud moment, not only for him personally, but the entire family.
After 6 months, I'm able to see my daughter today. I always believe in her, and I'm happy to be able to celebrate this achievement.
The Olympic bronze medalist played football before switching to rugby. She says she has no plans on switching back anytime soon. Caroline Itavi, FBC Sports.
Fiji Mbati and Parramatta Eels winger Maika Sivo has been ruled out for an extended period of time with a knee injury. Fiji-born Roy Krishna's ATK Mohan Bagan side emerged as Group D champions after a 1-1 draw against the Bashundhara Kings of Bangladesh in the 2021 AFC Cup this morning. There's still hope for the national women's and men's teams to qualify for the 2023 International Cricket Council World Cup, despite the East Asia Pacific qualifiers scheduled for October being cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As Tale Matarakula reports, there is another qualifying event next year.
The cancellation means only the top 2 teams as of April 2020 are through to the next qualifying round.
It was confirmed last week that they have cancelled the World Cup qualifiers due to be held in October. This is due to international travel safety. The women's Papua New Guinea will qualify because they are the top 3 team from April 2020. And for the men's, it is the Philippines.
However, both our national teams still have a chance to make their respective World Cups.
To qualify for the World Cup. The next qualifying event for the men's will be next year for the T20, the World Cup, Asia Pacific World Cup qualifier. The women's will be in 2023.
For now, the squad members have been advised to conduct individual training.
Put a strategic plan for men's and women's senior. At the moment, I'm looking for putting a program for them for next year if the border is open this year, so that we can continue on their training.
Cricket Fiji is waiting for the green light by the Ministry of Health to have the national squads train in their own bubble. Talima Tirukula, FBC Sports.
Netball Fiji plans to hold another Digicel Punja's Reset Netball Championship as soon as restrictions are lifted. The Reset Championship started last year with elite players forming 4 teams and competing weekly. Still in the consultation phase, Netball Fiji President Rubian Sorobaki says they're excited about getting things up and running again.
So ideally, we would have had the national champs by now, which was planned to be held last week. If looking at our plans for the rest of the calendar year, we are looking at the possibility of hosting a repeat of the Super 4 series, the Digicel and Punjab Super 4 series that we hosted last year.
The 2020 Paralympics opening ceremony got underway despite strong opposition from Japanese and doubts over whether the Paralympics would go ahead. This report from News Hub has more from the dazzling circus-themed spectacle. That's it from Sports Tonight. In Weird and Wonderful after the break, people spending thousands of dollars on clothing that does not physically exist. Find out more after the break.
Some showers over the southeastern parts and interior of the larger islands and the eastern division. Elsewhere, mainly fine weather. Now to the west, a bright sunny day all across. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, there were a few showers with cloudy periods in the afternoon. In the north, brief showers over Sabu Sabu, but Lambasa had a sunny day. Places we are checking out tonight are Nandi, Suva and Lambasa. Nandi had a humidity of 45%. At sea, a fresh to strong southeast wind flow prevails over Fiji waters. Southeast winds 20 to 25 knots, rough seas, moderate southerly swells. Turning to the tides, the next high tide is about 20 minutes from now and low tide at 2:16 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:23. For tomorrow, cloudy periods with some showers over the southeastern parts and interior of the larger islands. The outlook for Friday, expect brief showers over the group. And our shot of the day, it's almost as if the sky is on fire, sent in by Asesela Mburelevu in Nawaisomo, Mbenga. And in Fijian Pulse tonight, with hundreds lining up to obtain a birth certificate, we ask, did you have a birth certificate before?
Yes, I did have my birth certificate before. I just came to Superbowl House today just to collect my business license, Vinaka.
Yes, I do have my birth certificate before. I already have my birth certificate of being help of my parents.
Recapping our main stories, more medical teams deployed to Kandavu, Fijians in New Zealand safe, and Ministry expedites investment applications. For these stories and others, tune in to our sister station Gold FM to our poll question. This week we are asking, are you confident that Fiji will meet its October vaccination deadline? Visit our FBC News website to take part. And remember to send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.